So everything operates the same, just at different levels, right? So you use something at the base level to understand something at the higher level, right? So online, you have, like, human beings are, in essence, it's all sexual, it's all mixing, it's all like you have something, and if you mix it with something else, you create new life, new whatever. So at the lowest level, that's going to be the sexual, biological, physical reproduction, right? So if you go through puberty in a healthy way, you will become attractive, you could become sexy, and then that will entice or lure people of the opposite sex to want to use your genetic material or to mix with what you are to create something new. And so that ability is 100% dependent on natural process of puberty unfolding. You can't train, you really can't train or work your way into or through a puberty. It just happens naturally if you don't get in the way. Like you can make yourself healthy, you can remove obstacles, like if you remove toxins and stuff like that, you can have these things work, but it's a natural process that just happens. And so there's later puberties, so there's spiritual puberties, and when you go through a spiritual puberty, you in general discover that you're either masculine, you're somebody with insight, with logos, or you're either feminine and you're receptive to insight, into logos. And ultimately at some level, at the deepest level of spiritual opening available to a human, every soul in comparison to God is female. None of us have anything that we could give to God, because God already contains what we have. Like we are a part of the fullness that is God. So there's no way that we have anything that we need to give to God in the masculine sense. And so that's why God is conceptualized as a man. And the reason that God is conceptualized as a man is only in relative comparison to the rest of creation, which would be any fragment or any aspect of God. And so just like the feminine has to be given more before it can do anything, for us as fragments of God, we have to be given God again. Like we have to eat the God, or we have to have like sexual relationships with the God. We have to mix, right? So if we are the female soul, and then that soul is basically inseminated by the Godhead, and then that leads to a spiritual awakening or spiritual birth or spiritual children. And then lower down you get groups, teacher-student relationships, where you have a more masculine soul inseminating or pollinating more receptive souls, and then that mixture gives rise to a spiritual children. It gives rise to new creations. Just like if you go through normal puberty, the sperm and the egg gives rise to new people. The logos and the receptivity to the logos, the masculine and feminine, gives rise to new spiritual people. It transforms people. And so this whole process is, like I said, it's a puberty, it's manhood on these various levels. And you'll see that, like, when you go through puberty, all levels of puberty have a certain amount of like sexual attraction or charisma that can come with it. And then that charisma is what people do when they're online, like on OnlyFans, or doing YouTube channels and stuff like that, where it's like you're looking at this potentiality of sexual mixing. And it's very easy to get into like a masturbatory spiral, where you're like just listening to spiritual teachers all the time without getting into a relationship with a spiritual teacher, where there's a personal relationship, not a parasocial thing. Then that's all it's identical to OnlyFans in its motivation and its effects and everything else. It's the same reason that you post like people post sexy pictures on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You're just looking for attention. So even all the highest minded spiritual stuff is just looking for attention. But in today's world, everything seems to be online dating, right? So it's like the end goal is like you have to have this spiritual fruit, to have the thing flower. It's like you have to have relationships with people, and those relationships just, you have to, however the relationships turn out, good or bad, awesome, catastrophic, eternal, short-term, long-term, it's like you actually just have to try to have that relationship, and then that relationship alters you. It's how you mature, it's how you grow, it's how you learn. And in an ideal situation, it's like you only have one relationship or one flower and one fruit, one whatever, and it's like that's definitely I don't know, that's an ideal. We're like, whatever age we're in right now is like that's not common anymore. And so like you'll find that a lot of people, like the reason that the like YouTube and all these other channels are so populated with you'll find that when people have a lot of zeal, like when they have their non-dual experience and they're like, I want to go have a satsang, or I want to, that desire to be a teacher is no different than the desire to be a fitness or an exercise influencer, or somebody sexy, somebody capable of posting a picture and getting a ton of likes because their body's cute or whatever. It's the same thing. And all this stuff is the same thing. Like the highest skill that God is trying to teach anybody is the transmutation of something, of what is bad into good. Like God takes what is bad, like he didn't create what is bad, but the ultimate thing that God does is he takes what is bad and turns it into good. And so like at a low level, you see that people do that with like just sex. Like they'll take derogatory, demeaning, painful, abusive sexual situations and they'll turn it into something that they like. They'll turn it into like ecstasy. And that's the same thing as the mystic's ecstasy. Like on the upper higher centers, it's taking the suffering of the world, the heaviness of the heart, the pain of heart, tears, crying, and transmuting that into a divine ecstasy or divine love. But the activity of turning that sensation around is identical to like what you're seeing on OnlyFans and stuff like that. It's just the lower levels of reality is like very literal, very it's like, oh, you're getting F'd in the A, okay, oh, and you're turning that into a joy for you. It's like, wow, that would normally be, and it's the same, like as base and derogatory as it is, that's the most basic lower level fallen pattern of a higher thing, of like your monks and monastics are turning something like, oh, you're starving, into an ecstasy, or what else? Oh, but like, and a lot of times trauma makes you like too sensitive, right? Trauma, if you can have sexual trauma and then that makes it so that you don't like being like touched, it's like too sensitive, like it's not, you can have this and like that's what happened with childbirth, right? Like, so because of human trauma, because of like poor decision makings on the part of people, like we traumatized ourselves to where it's like the overwhelming sensation of birth, what would normally be a joyous natural thing, is unbelievably painful and scary and terrible. Whereas like if that trauma is healed, that intensity of sensation, I mean, you can find videos of this online, you can turn the intensity of sensation, if the trauma is healed of birth, you can turn it into something pleasurable. It's just everyone is so traumatized that the very idea of pleasurable sensation from it seems like a ludicrous myth. Should have pulled in there. And so there's and it's the same thing with different types of conversation, or all these different ways of like being intimate and meeting with somebody can seem like painful or whatever, or people bring down their boundaries too much and they're doing it willy-nilly all the time, and sort of you can be open in a somewhat like pathological way if you don't believe that there's any sort of like correct set or setting for, oh my gosh, we're doomed, by the way. Well, we're not doomed, but there's going to be a resetting of some sort, or I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to continue forward in time at the rate that their consciousness is processing things very slowly. But yeah, anyway, that said, so if you wanted to, if you're bored and you're looking for something to do, I think I could probably get it to where you could do a work trade for at least lodging, and some food, like a place to sleep, access to a toilet, and maybe some kitchen facilities or whatever, in exchange for a little bit of labor, and then also just come out and train with me, do the hose in the river, learn to harness the power of a river, have a real relationship, to give fruit or whatever to whatever, build up a little bit of momentum and excitement to maybe raise some money and build a church or something like that, because like a calculator is the best place or the best way to do math, and a church is the best way to study the Logos, if that makes any sense. So we could build one of those. I'm actually sitting here, I'm going to pick up a baptismal font for my 4-month-old baby girl that I had with my ex-wife, who I broke up with and got divorced from during pregnancy, in the most it's difficult way. So it's like, is that spiritual technique of turning, it's like it's so screwed up, can it be turned into something better? And it's like what people call suffering is really just it's penetration by the world. Like when you die, the world penetrates your body and you rot away or whatever. Like when trauma happens to you, something breaks your boundaries. It breaks your boundaries, and then that can be turned into a reproductive or a sexual experience where it creates a new person, where it's like it gets heavy. There's all sorts of different types of different types of spiritual beings, depending on what you're possessed by, what you're inhabiting, or like whatever. They have different types of coitus, and it creates different types of offspring. There's like a parallel reality. Like if you were to there's a certain type, like if you were to, like when two people, like if a person kills somebody else, that's a type of sexual reproduction. At a spiritual level, it creates a spiritual child. It creates a spiritual entity. Or when you if you have sex with somebody, if you do a sacrament or a ritual, or if you take, like when you take psychedelics, they penetrate you. If you allow like a guru or a psychologist or a teacher or a friend into your head, if you allow somebody to really change who and what you are and how you think, that is a intercourse. It's a mixing, it's a mingling between you and the thing, or you might be mixing it. Somebody is receptive, somebody's active, mixes together. It creates a new entity, a new being that will either go on to possess you or somebody else. There's yeah, it's like that. So yeah, Maui vacation retreat. You could come retreat for as long as possible. Obviously, I'd like some money, but could also make it pretty cheap, all things considered. But yeah, you can learn how to breathe like a river. I'm not like a movement coach, but I'm like just with the breathing and the awareness and the focus alone, it's like it levels you up to that pro level of understanding, if not pro level like performance, because it's like you might be old and busy like me with like only 20 minutes a day to devote any time to anything, but yeah, gotta go do this.